SM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk, as we have demonstrated there already by Ida Beza Gardner. Hello to you as well with the hand wave there. And even further beyond points of that, I got a very interesting story that I almost thought I had, if I didn't recheck my email here, I almost thought I would have imagined it, because it almost sounds too fantastic about how far away the pickup has and can be. But again, if you're on the line, however you want to be, that's the right place for you to be. But of course, this is our open line show for the week. I think we finally settled on a Wonderful Wordy Wednesday. We also have Sean Gardner over there. Howdy to you as well. So if we're going to go with that as a replacement for Free for All Friday, yeah, the alliteration maybe doesn't always work out, but we're going with it anyway, because this is the last live show we got ahead of the holiday. And of course, what we're going to be doing both hours of the show here today, taking on all the comments, calls, questions, etc., however you want to do it. So again, all the many different ways that are available to you throughout both hours of the program here. So if you want to get on that phone line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot to talk about, a lot going on, and I do have a few things to mention here, so don't worry. This is not just a, hey, yeah, call it because we got nothing better to do here. There's still plenty going on ahead of the holiday, but that interesting circumstance that I mentioned there, I get a lot of random emails and a lot of random things, but this one managed to make its way through the spam filter, and I'm very glad that I did. It's not often that I get an email titled Greetings from the Finnish Lapland. And Timo and Ismo, two AM radio enthusiasts from Finland that, well, I think Sean might be able to understand this better than most in the audience, frankly, here. They were listening, identifying distant AM stations all over the world. Specifically, they were able to tune in to KTSM AM here in El Paso. They actually sent a audio clip to confirm their pickup. I won't play it back here because it'll just sound like our signal, but much worse. You could clearly hear our signal coming through with the station ID at the end of the hour, and then that top of the hour little news jingle thing coming at about back in October. They were combing through their data, and it came in at about midnight, and like October 10th, if I'm looking at it, or maybe it was November 10th. They do it differently. Anyway, point is that they were able to pick us up from the I'm not even going to try to read the name of this Finnish name of it here, but Northern Territory of Finland, Lapland, where you see those like snow-covered trees that are almost like drooping over, and they were able to get it from about 5,000 miles away. So for anyone wondering about how they can pick up the signal as well as they did, they had some very good luck. Okay, it was November 10th. I'm looking at the date correctly here, and they have 1,000-meter long antennas. So anyone having signal issues here, there's your solution. I'm not actually recommending that, but hey, if you want to be damn sure here, and actually as by way of confirmation, they did send me some pictures of them. There's one of them actually doing some of the work on the wires out there, if you're looking over on our social media, and showing the not quite dead of winter Lapland area, but you can see it's very cold and snowy there. And then the next one coming up should be the actual monitoring facilities they have looking for those radio signals 200 miles north of of the Arctic Circle. And yes, Flaco Jimenez, I would agree with you. I am assuming that some of our local audience, such as Frankie, are jealous of that. So they're very time. Timo and Emo, thank you very much for reaching out. I guess I'm just enough of a radio nerd in this way that this is fascinating to me. The fact that, again, I've mentioned that AM signals are weird, and the way it propagates to the earth is even weirder. But yeah, that definitely is a part of it here. But that's just one of those things I wanted to mention. Also an interesting time for homecomings going on in the area, or those that used to call this home, having some interesting incidents around the area, such as a couple of items on the mind, including Sean Kugler, what happened with him on the Cardinal staff after that Mexico City trip, as well Bill Malugin, who I am not actually crazy about it, that we used to be colleagues, at least briefly, here in El Paso. Interesting story from our news partners there at KFox 14, talking about how, yes, he did start his career in El Paso. So, and people start taking these their own way, of course, immediately. But hey, that's what we do at this point during the show and during the week. And RJ asking for Wordy Wednesday. We're going with Wonderful Wordy Wednesday to keep the three-letter alliteration going. Saying sounds like something dreamed up at the office party after heavy drinking. Can neither confirm nor deny, but let's just say the holiday's coming. So that may be your hint towards it. And Sean Gardner, of course, yep, interesting commentary there on the idea of it. Yeah, they referred to it, Sean Gardner calling it as DX or long distance. Sunspot cycle is good, so signals are bouncing off the ionosphere favorably. And also mentioning a ham channel from others there, they say they refer to it as QSLs. They're long distance confirmation, saying they've gotten over 1,000 of them in such ways. So for those interested in that kind of thing. But in any case, it is our end of the week. And point is, we are taking those calls. So if you want to get on the line, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And if you're on the line, as we're in the middle of a segment, just getting on there, you might get popped up live. So just be Johnny on the spot with it, as we're going to do right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Jerry, Northwest.
Hey there, Jerry. What's on your mind?
Well, I want to correct a lot of people that come out and say that some of these mass shootings are all right-wing contributed.
Mm-hmm.
The man that did the Walmart shooting over in Virginia was a black man, and he had disgruntleization with his fellow employees.
Mm-hmm.
So he was not a white right-wing extremist. The man that did the shooting up in Colorado happened to be gay. In fact, he called himself binary, which means he goes both directions, or a he, she, as some people used to call him. He doesn't know if whether he's a he or a she. So it's not a white right-wing man that killed them people. It was somebody within their own community. So just to clear the air, I wanted to bring that up before anybody else brings it up. And I would like to say happy Thanksgiving to El Paso.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, that incident, as much as we were on a lighter note at the start of the show, that's certainly what we are able to talk about today, what you're bringing up there. And I'm sure that is particularly the incident happening, the one you're referring to there yesterday, or overnight, more accurately, probably causing a lot of heartache for people, particularly here in the community, of only because that it's, similar enough to probably cause some memories, cause some thoughts, cause some pauses for people here, even if it's not exactly by any means the exact same thing, the fact that it happened at a Walmart here. So let me just put it this way, whatever the status of any of the suspected or now former shooters may be in those cases, I don't usually find it useful to speculate on their motives, whether it be disgruntled, whether it be their non-binary nature. And I do think you mean non-binary in that case, because I believe that's the term you're looking for there. Yep. But at the case where prosecution can still occur here, I think that's making sure that, again, as I've been focused on the one that did happen locally, less of an impact, I guess we could have in some of those other ones, but making sure that it actually happens would be, I think, the most important thing.
Speaking of which, I understand that that case may be taken out of the current DA's hands and given to somebody else, and not having her prosecuted because people have figured out that she would probably mess it up. So my question is, I understand that the federal government is pressing charges against them.
Correct.
Is the state also pressing charges against that individual?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer is that their cases will happen not simultaneously. It looks like the federal case will probably be happening first at this point, given that some of the statements and things coming out about the investigation, or rather prosecutorial investigation or progress on it, has or hasn't been happening, depending on some of the local reports coming out about that. Let me just say this. There's nothing concrete on exactly how the state level prosecution will be. All things being equal, it would be the local district attorney's office handling it. But of course, we do have a little bit of something that kind of adds an inkling to that. There was that previous letter sent out by the district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, to both the actual attorney general of the United States as well as the governor and attorney general here in Texas, and actually saying that looking for extra support in the prosecution. And don't know if there was actually a response from federal or not on that, considering that they have their own prosecution going on. But I do recall that the state level response was basically, we are not going to be comparing notes. If you want us to take it over, we will. Not directly quoting here, but rather my effective paraphrasing.
Well, I would like them to take it over because Rosales is not competent enough to do it, my opinion. Okay, now she apparently had somebody else, another judge that worked in Vinton, conspiring with her and getting with people that were victims of that shooting, and basically stirring the pot and bringing up a whole bunch of can of worms underneath. So it's not right for them to do that. They should not be trying to persuade either side. They should be doing their job and prosecuting.
I would agree that would be the main idea, and all of this stuff, at the very least, even if this somehow gets resolved with no further ramification, it's been a hell of a distraction. That, again, the worst possible thing that could happen out of all of this. I mean, there's a lot of bad things, but if any of this ends up having any bearing on the actual outcome of the case, because, I mean, guilty or not, we all have our opinions at this point. I have no doubt about this, but I think we can probably all agree that if anything were to happen or be decided in this case on a technical nature, like something was mishandled, therefore it has to happen a certain way, that would be probably one of the worst outcomes I could imagine for this case at this point.
Yes, and that's what we don't want to happen.
Absolutely.
We want it to be fair and square. Give the man a fair trial, but do your best at convicting him.
Absolutely.
You know? Okay. And thank you, Andrew. Hey, you have a good holiday and happy Thanksgiving, El Paso.
To you as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right. And with that, we will go ahead and take that next break right now and get to some more of the comments coming in there. Again, it is our open line show for the week. So whether you want to call it the Wonderful Wordy Wednesday, which is the one we're trying out here, or just call it the open line show and know that you can call in to 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Please do so, as we're doing that both hours of the program. So back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A multi-vehicle accident that happened earlier, I-10 westbound before Paisano Drive, has got the left lane and left shoulder blocked, and it's causing delays. I-10 westbound Airway to Paisano is a 10-minute delay right now. 8-minute delays, I-10 eastbound between Piedras and Geronimo. Paisano Drive is slow. 21-minute delays, both directions, Washington to South Santa Fe. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
FTX goes bust and reveals the biggest fraudulent scandal with ties to the Democratic Party and the deep state. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
A construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like,
rewire the hole?
They're firing, Paul. Wait, what did I do?
or even,
Install a waterfall. Whose dumb idea was this?
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk. From the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building, Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
It's one thing to maintain your business and another to grow it, especially these days. If you're listening to me wondering what else you can try, you're not alone. The conversation that we're having right now, you and me, that's the kind of trusted conversation we at iHeart want to help you have with your future customers. And as America's #1 audio company across radio, podcasting, digital radio, and social, your next customers are listening to us. See how we can help you grow your business at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Dallas-Fort Worth area attorneys, a partner men can count on. Offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, and St. Louis. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media channels we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso being more or less the main one, but you can also find us on similarly named pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either again under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, really whatever works best for you. Able to see, hear, comment on the show safely, mind you. Don't be holding your wheel with your knees and texting here. Like I see enough people doing that without good reason, and this is definitely not a good reason to do it. I mean, if you really need to, you have the phone line up now as well. Of course, if you want to call in again safely that way. The roads are nuts enough out there today. I made the ill-advised decision to make a quick jaunt over just past Airway from not too far from our station here on the west side, and boy, was that a bad idea. Something that would usually take like 15 minutes ended up taking hour and a half, depending if you consider the stops that I had to make in the middle of it. Like, just not everyone who leaves El Paso but comes back to visit is here right now, is all I can pin it on there. So yeah, forewarned, forearmed, careful out on those roads. So please pay attention to what's in front of you more than anything else there. But again, we do have that phone line open if you so choose to do so. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Sean on the west side with us right now on the line there. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, I just figured I'd give a little follow-up explanation other than what I just wrote on there on the page. Basically, the listeners there using whatever kind of monstrous antenna they were using.
Yeah.
They pretty much, what it is the process of DX, that means long distance. And then when they said QSL is actually just the confirmation. They're sending you a confirmation saying that, yep, we heard your station, yada, 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 and whatever information. They probably gave you a little bit more. And I think you made the comment that whatever was actually put on there, you know, probably not real good to be putting out over the air. And I don't think it's anything bad.
Would not sound good. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, right now we are in a process of we're at the beginning of a sunspot cycle. And at the and the sunspots increasing will increase the ability to listen to radio stations around the world. And there are people that actually will focus in on that, and they'll be listening to stuff all over the world and throwing out signal reports and everything. And I mean, I listen to stuff all over the world, and it's kind of cool because you can hear different perspective from different areas as to what's actually going on in the reality. You're not stuck in your own little microcosm of your local area. So it's interesting to hear other perspectives, and also the other music likes. So AM just happens to be an easier media to do that on. FM does not bounce off of the ionosphere. It actually punctures through based on the frequency. So the FM signals start heading off into outer space and they don't bounce around.
Right.
The AM signals, on the other hand, are a nice long wavelength. And so with that long wavelength, it has the opportunity to hit the ionosphere and bounce back. And so between bouncing back from the ionosphere to the Earth and then back to the ionosphere and so on and so forth, you can actually hear stuff from all over the planet. And it's kind of cool. So that's just that. I know one of the regular things that I'll do, like driving into work in the morning, it's not clear across the planet, but I can listen to 880 AM out of Nebraska.
Okay.
Right here in the pickup truck here in El Paso. So yeah, like I said, if a lot of people don't listen to AM other than like for talk radio local.
Sure.
But if you actually get out there, you hear all kinds of stuff, and there's still music being played. You can hear Canadian stations. You hear other stations from all over our continent, south of the border, you name it, all the way in South America, pretty regularly. But then, like I said, when that sunspot cycle starts to climb, then you start picking up stuff from everywhere, all over the planet. And I don't know what they sent you exactly, everything, other than just through an email. But it's one of those that if you wanted to, you could make up a QSL card, kind of like a postcard, and put some information about the station or whatever, or about whatever they were listening to at the time, and then send it back to them, and they would collect those kind of things. I'm actually waiting on one right now from a radio station that went off the air due to they couldn't afford to run the 50,000 watt transmitter, 100,000 watt transmitter anymore.
Ooh, okay.
And so it went off the air, but I actually heard it the night that it was going off the air, and so I listened to it and recorded some of it. And then I sent them an email, and they're dropping a QSL card in the mail, and it's kind of like people collect them. Ham operators are probably most significant at doing it. Shortwave listeners do it, and they collect these cards and kind of use them to either wallpaper or stick them in a photo album kind of thing. And that way, it's kind of this is what you can do with old technology,
I mean, it's the foundation of more of our modern world than we realize it. I mean, when I started looking at just to delve into the nerdery one more time, that essentially cell phones, the modern way we have them now, are more or less a direct result of the protocols being developed back in, the middle of the century by ham radio operators, and therefore being further developed on there. I mean, there's still interesting, fascinating protocols being developed these days, which is why one of these days I need to finish up and finally get my license with y'all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. The history of cell phones actually originated with ham radio and the development of what's known as a repeater. So, and you have linked repeater systems, which in turn becomes, like you said, the basis behind the what do you call it? The cell system, cell sites, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
But anyway, I won't tear up any more of your time on a hardcore nerdy subject that I love, but there you go. And hopefully that gives a little bit of explanation, and maybe some of your listeners will go out and actually listen to some AM once in a while at night, because you'll hear some stuff that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of talking about the contact card here. I want to say when we were clearing out some offices here a year or so ago, a couple of years, I think it was either just pre-pandemic or like in the midst of it, I did find a contact previously. I'm not sure when it was from, but from Nova Scotia is where we'd previously been heard from. So this would, by my calculations, the one from then Finnish Lapland, be about double that distance, give or take.
Right. So, yeah, you guys ought to, like I said, a lot of radio stations back in the day had them. But, of course, with AM kind of being overtaken by FM for the most part, a lot of radio stations don't have them anymore. But, if you guys develop one, if you developed one you could send that back to them. And, hey, this is what I threw together for you. Maybe a picture of the star on the end of the mountain, or the TV station or the radio station, or whatever, whatever you felt like doing. So there you go.
All right.
So anyway, I'll let you have it back, and you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and hopefully all the listeners have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and God bless everybody, and we'll catch you later.
Absolutely. Thanks for the point in the call and the information there. I find it fascinating, and hopefully at least someone else found it interesting, and you have a happy Thanksgiving there as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, talk to you later there. And with that one, we'll take that next break right now. Again, maybe a little bit nerdier than we usually do. I'm not pretending to be any kind of technical expert here, but hey, when something reaches out to you like this, and they did send me an email with those pictures, I'll pop them up one more time here, just for good measure, to see them here of the individuals, their setup and where they were gathering that from here. RJ saying reminds me of skipping on the CB back in the 70s, pretty similar, basically. And at least one other comment there about how it actually takes to get here. And yeah, very much a different part of the world. So fascinating to me, but don't worry, that won't be the total focus of the show today. We are, of course, focused on what you all have to say. So if you want to mention that, things are more than welcome to. But got anything else you want to bring up? That is the day we are doing this, calling this Wonderful Wordy Wednesday, the replacement for Free for All Friday, as we'll be out of the office the rest of this week for the holiday. But don't worry, we'll still be having shows on for you. But in the meantime, got to take that next break right now. Still, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. 3 pit bulls that attacked several people in Northeast El Paso 2 weeks ago will be euthanized. That was the ruling yesterday by a municipal court judge in El Paso. The dogs caused serious bodily injuries following an attack on 3 neighbors at a mobile home park on November 9th. The dogs were taken into custody by El Paso Animal Services and placed in a quarantine. Tyler Marches and Clevie Nelson are the 2 victims who stepped in to help an elderly woman. Both suffered serious injuries. Former UTEP football coach Sean Kugler has been fired from his job as an assistant coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Kugler had been an offensive line coach with the NFL team, but according to the team, he was fired yesterday after an incident in Mexico City on Sunday. He's accused of groping a woman. The Arizona Cardinals played Sunday at Azteca Stadium in Mexico City. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It's the night before Thanksgiving, and it is going to be another cold night, along with some winds, making for an extra chill in the air, and that is going to be the case as you wake up for Thanksgiving as well. We're still on track, though, for our next weather maker to impact both Thursday and Friday, not only keeping the winds going, but bringing us colder air and maybe a chance for some winter precipitation. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's Black Friday event starts now with up to $400 off on select XPS and Alienware PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors, plus special pricing on accessories and free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
The El Conquistador Tucson, a Hilton resort, welcomes our neighbors from El Paso. We're your perfect staycation getaway, far enough away down I-10 with amazing hiking trails. This summer, we're knocking 20% off all food and beverage for our El Paso neighbors. HiltonElConquistador.com.
Star Wars has been a cultural force since its release in May of 1977. But it's the multi-billion-dollar franchise that never should have existed. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Now I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whatever works for you really is the right place for you to be, as we are doing our call-in show for the week. So you can leave your comments over there. A lot of those coming in and those dropping those likes and reacts over on those pages. Frank Rodriguez, Sean Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Robert Haynes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Jerry Hart. We do appreciate it. Helps with all those algorithmic things. But also those phone lines full up at the moment. But if you want to call in, squeeze in throughout the rest of the program, still doing the full 2 hours here today, our last live show for the week. You can, of course, call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Again, full up at the moment, but give your shot a little bit later on. Here's a hint. If you see we end a call with one of the previous ones, that might be a good chance for y'all. Now, the only difference that seems to make it between who gets on and who doesn't is a little bit of luck, but also tenacity is the major deciding factor here, because if you're on the line, we'll get to you. If you're not, we can't. Just how it goes. Anyway, let's get back to more of those calls here on the line. We do have Louis in the Northeast with us on the line here right now. Louis, thanks for joining us.
Yes, how you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to mention, I heard that, overheard that gentleman talking about the radio and how he could hear the Nebraska station 880 all the way down here somewhere.
Yep.
Well, I used to be a truck driver, and it's also the reverse. I used to go across 80 way up there in Nebraska, and there was a certain spot that every time I would pass through there, I would pay attention so I could hear what was going on down here in El Paso on the radio stations from here. I'd listen to them up there, and I probably was able to hear for about maybe 45 minutes or so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'd hear certain things going on. And then I've also heard it way down about 1,200 miles down into Mexico. And that was, I believe, the AM station 880 or 800 or something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. But I just wanted to mention that they travel a long ways, a very long ways. And I've heard when I was up in Washington and New York, I would hear from other countries. I could hear the AM stations as well. So that was pretty nice to hear. And then, like the guy said, you could hear other people's opinions and other people's music and what they like and so on and so on. So to me, that was interesting as well.
I mean,
mention that.
No, that's a fascinating way. As much as we consider everything very connected with the internet, I mean, there's always been ways out there, even if they were a little bit more conditional and almost like a luck of whatever the weather was.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
All right.
All right, have a good one there. I mean, yeah, okay. As being in radio, I mean, I'm not exactly up tinkering on the towers. I am nowhere near qualified to do that here, even if I mean, sure, I could study up on it, but let's just say the people who I know people who make that their business to do, like the tower climbing, the painting. I mean, there was actually a recent thing we had going on. If you noticed, that helicopter, one of those heavy lifts that was hovering over the, believe it was our news partners there at KFOX 14 having their tower work done. It happens, and it's quite harrowing. So we also have Robert Gable and Bernadette Bandacole. Good afternoon and happy Thanksgiving Eve to you all as well. To get to more of those calls on the line, again, it is our open line show for the week, so that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have, I believe, Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Yes, this is Eric, the philosopher. And I just wanted to point out that Christian conservatives, they're inherently bigots and make uneducated assumptions. Like, if you look at that story that caller made, or 2 calls ago, he said that just because the defense attorneys said that their client was non-binary, that automatically means that he's a left-wing person and not a Trump supporter. That is an ignorant, bigoted assumption that these people think because of right-wing media like KFOX and conservative talk radio. They associate LGBTQ people with left-wing causes. When there's people like Caitlyn Jenner, who's a MAGA supporter. And if you look at the AP's reporting on this subject about this mass shooter at this LGBT club, you'll see that he was raised by his grandparents, one of whom was an election fraud denier and supporter of the January 6th terrorist attacks to steal the election. That was who he was raised by, and that's what the AP had promoted out there. That's what they had said. But Christian conservatives are latching on to the idea that his attorneys, his defense, said that he's non-binary, therefore this can't be a hate crime, or therefore he can't be motivated by the bigotry promoted by right-wing information sources like KFOX and conservative talk radio.
So, okay, let me give you an example. I often say that I don't necessarily disagree with you because initially, yes, it is accurate that sexual orientation is no guarantee of political views. I myself got to speak with the Texas Log Cabin Republicans when I went to CPAC last year. It's very interesting. And actually, oddly enough, Caitlyn Jenner made an appearance at there. Didn't exactly see them. I kind of like saw them at the back of a crowd, so it doesn't really count as having met Caitlyn Jenner, but visited that specifically. But I did get to talk with some of the state level representatives or party or that organization, I guess would be the right way to put it there from it. And it was interesting to get their perspective on these kind of things and these issues, as it is kind of a counter to a lot of the narratives that come up here. But that's why, I mean, yes, I would agree with you on certain things that it's not, but then when you come out with it, and that's why everyone is bad that has any thoughts this way, you realize you're doing the exact same stereotyping, right? Like you're saying that all Christian conservatives are inherently bad and evil, to paraphrase what you're getting here. No, you did not say evil, but if you're getting at any other idea besides that, I would love to know what it is.
See, like, for example, I'm answering your question. I provided you 2 sources, for example, one from the authoritative American Academy of Pediatrics. They're the body that governs child doctors in the United States and the Western world, and the American Psychological Association. I provided both of their links describing to you the difference between gender and sexual orientation, which you just conflated right now. Transgender is different from sexual orientation. So you could discuss trans issues without discussing sexual subjects. You right now, we're promoting misinformation. I provided you links that you should have read.
Okay, I'm aware with the source information you're talking about here, but I was speaking about specific people I was speaking to that also had both trans and then different sexual orientations as part of it here. So if you're saying that I'm not exactly quoting you correctly here, is basically what we're getting at here, therefore conflating issues. I mean, the Texas Log Cabin party mission is to kind of be a big tent for all of these LGBTQIA plus, however you want to put it, their issues here. So I wouldn't count this as conflating, but rather discussing it as the way they're bringing it up. Are you having issues with Texas Log Cabin Republicans then? Is that what we're really getting at?
Christian conservatives are inherent. They oppose gays, the LGBT community. Their media just completely dehumanizes and demonizes them every single moment they can. Like KFOX, for example, every single day they have some cherry-picked article about trans people or non-binary people that makes them unsympathetic freaks and just completely dehumanizing them. Every single day they choose stories to poison the hearts and minds of El Pasoans and to get them to not learn about gender and trans people and non-binary people. This messaging campaign prevents conservatives from reading the authoritative sources like I presented to you that you didn't read.
Okay, if we're going to go back down this, I didn't read every sentence of the thing that you sent me here. Okay, clearly that's not an actual standard that we maintain here, because you keep commenting on books that you have by your own admission not read, but you've read the summary of, therefore you're completely qualified to comment on it. So at the very least, if you're going to hold anyone else to that standard, hold yourself to it as well. Not something we're enforcing here, by the way. We can certainly talk about issues that are of concern or importance to us without having read every bit of source material that anyone has posted or linked to on the internet. And yeah, I point out to me where I'm wrong about it, as opposed to saying, well, you haven't read every bit of this. I mean, that's its own kind of essentially academic bullying, saying that, well, you're not well read enough to be able to comment on this subject. I am, and therefore I can determine for you. Now, if you think that's going to fly here, I am not sure what show you've been listening to. But beyond that, getting to the actual point here, I hate getting into semantic arguments. I got to tell y'all, because getting into this, well, you're not talking about it right here. Okay, let's talk about what's actually important here. Move beyond the terminology and get to the importance of the issues. When you go into the core issues about it, anyone saying that someone or some group, some individual of any identity has no right to exist, yeah, I'm going to find myself opposed to that person here. But when it comes down to other people saying that, well, should someone be able to tell me what my beliefs are, what is right and wrong, or am I able to, as an adult person or someone raising people who will be adult persons, about what values and things I want to inculcate within them? That's when you start getting beyond this, chest beating righteousness that you're kind of trying to work on here, because you're saying that, no, if you believe anything besides what I do in the exact same way, hell, Civil War, and I don't mean the Civil War, though, that one kind of applies. I'm talking about like in Europe, the old world, so to speak, such as the English Civil War, has been fought over less. So if you want to say that, well, my way or the highway here, good luck with it, because well, I'm hitting the road, but, well, maybe I'm not hitting the road, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing in any case here. So with that, got to take that next break right now. Coming back out of this break, keep doing what we do for the last live show of the week. It is not Friday, but we're not going to be on Friday because we're out for the holiday. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A multi-vehicle crash from earlier still slowing down traffic on the I-10 westbound before Paisano. Multiple vehicles on the left shoulder and partially blocking the left lane with a backup to Airway. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, 2 vehicles up on the right shoulder. Traffic's moving just a little slower. I-10 westbound Hawkins to the Patriot with a 6-minute delay. A stalled Freightliner is blocking the right lane on North Desert Boulevard at Artcraft. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell Technologies Black Friday event starts now with up to 50% off select business PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors, plus savings on accessories and free shipping. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of fans download the Popular Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast to get to the bottom of popular culture's biggest myths. And now, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book separates conspiracy fact from conspiracy theory, from biological testing to our endless fascination with the Kennedy assassination. This holiday season, give the gift that explains the unexplainable. The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book. Available now. Order at StuffYouShouldReadBooks.com or wherever you buy your books.
New on Curiosity Stream. Squirrels. They're quick, they're quirky, and they go nuts for nuts. From stashing food to fighting snakes, these feisty foragers know how to survive. Don't miss Nuts About Squirrels. And MTV's killing the radio star. Dungeons & Dragons is sweeping the nation. And moms across the country are in a moral uproar. It's parents versus pop culture on a new episode of That Time When. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com.
Sometimes life makes choices for us, so we need to make the most of the choices we do have. With annual enrollment starting October 15th, El Paso Health Plus is the local choice if you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. Our local plan offers supplemental benefits like dental, transportation to medical appointments, great OTC benefits, vision, hearing, and much more. El Paso Health Plus also has programs designed to help keep you independent and healthy. So if you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. Now is the time to enroll in a local Medicare Advantage plan, run by local people who live and work in El Paso. Enroll now with El Paso Health Plus if you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. Call us at 833-742-3125 or visit us at ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local choice for Medicare and Medicaid.
What if there was a place where you could listen to all the radio stations, music, and podcasts you love? And what if that place was free? Well, we couldn't find it, so we made it. Download our free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people chiming in over there, including Groku Manda, Eric McNabb, Eric von Holstein-Rathlow, Ted Kors, who else? Dottie Butler taught us. Get that right there. Juan's. Apparently, I was a little bit out of breath in that one. Let me just say here, I never take much personally. I may get frustrated at certain things, but I'm still here because I want to be, and this is a good time, and I'm here for the discussion. So, I don't take anything personally that came across here. Well, maybe it's just that pre-Thanksgiving. I'm doing the preparation this year. I'm doing it the one way I did it same as last year, doing a sous vide turkey, which sounds kind of like maybe a little bit out of hand, but honestly, it's dead simple. Put it in the water bath for the next, actually 22 hours is the cook on this thing. So that's a little bit out of hand, but it's all automated and I just got the app on my phone. So it actually works out very nicely here. So hope you all are well along your preparations, because if you're going to try to go out and be shopping right now, good luck, God bless, Godspeed, because you're really going to need it. It's already bad traffic out there already. So again, really do wish you good luck. Let's get a sleeve squeeze and at least one more call before we hit that next break in the top of the hour here. We are doing the open line show for the week, so not exactly free for all Friday, but Wonderfully Wordy Wednesday. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll workshop it a little bit more. I guess at this point, maybe need to figure them out for each day of the week, except like Monday, because if we're starting on Monday with it, then the hell are we doing? Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to add something the caller earlier called about the solar cycles. So those solar cycles are in 11-year cycles, and those are kind of shorter cycles. So when they kind of ramp up, and then in an 11-year cycle, they'll ramp back down again.
Right. And
there's also longer-term cycles that are much, much longer, and where these smaller cycles kind of add up upon each other. And in the Little Ice Age, it was called the Maunder Minimum. There was hardly any sunspots. People have been watching those sunspots for hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah.
And there's all kinds of old records, and there's even proxy records that you can look at, too. Now, the modern solar maximum happened around 1998. And so we're kind of near more of a solar maximum now, but it is on the downtrend in recent years. So it's possible to get another minimum. And that can affect a lot of things, including cloud cover. When the solar cycle is low, you're going to expect more clouds, and when there's the solar cycle's high, you're going to expect less clouds. And there's actually been documented studies of less clouds recently, and that can contribute to warming as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But anyways, I called for another reason too, but I had to address this previous caller, Eric, because I think it's kind of interesting how, the conservatives and the Republicans, what they've been saying is that we don't really want people introducing sexualization, especially in the younger age school groups, elementary schools, who sticks what where, who sleeps with who, and all that stuff. is not really a discussion that's, I think, appropriate for elementary school kids and getting into those ideas of transitioning, all this stuff. It's just let kids be kids. I don't think it's necessary to do all that. And when conservatives kind of say to leave that kind of stuff out of the classroom, and we don't want those kinds of discussions for especially the younger kids, then supposedly that's like dehumanizing of LGBTQ and trans people. And whenever the shooting happened, all of these people, like Eric, went out there saying, well, this person must have been a MAGA Republican or a Christian conservative or someone who was anti-LGBTQ, and that's why the person went in there and shot up all those people. So they were making these presumptions and assumptions about this shooter without knowing any facts of the case, without knowing any motivations or anything. That was all these assumptions that they were making. So now, when the defense lawyer comes out and says, well, my client is non-binary, well, then everyone says, well, hey, maybe all these presumptions and assumptions that all these people have been making might not be true. And if this guy is non-binary, there's got to be some kind of history or some kind of evidence that this person is non-binary. And that may change the ideas of the motivations behind the shooting. So really, people should keep their mouth shut if they don't know any facts about the case, not make any assumptions, not follow their media narratives and the things that they want to be true. Same thing happened with the attacker with Paul Pelosi. He was kind of a hippie-like dude who had these BLM flags and stuff like that, LGBTQ flag, where he lived. And so the assumptions are kind of blown out of the water whenever they find out a little bit more details about that. And so I think the philosopher needs to watch out about the assumptions he's been making. And just like you pointed out, well, if you're a certain group, then you're all like this. If you're a Christian conservative, you must be a bigot. And so lining all these people up in the same category as if he knows people individually.
I can't think of much more heartache. I mean, I've made conscious efforts throughout my life to not treat people as just subsets of a group, but individuals that may subscribe to other ideas. I mean, there's actually a great U.S. government film from just the what is it? I think it was like the 1950s, black and white, still in that era, and it's just like post World War II, about how essentially the idea that we are all minorities in some ways, maybe not ethnically speaking, but that there is some group that we may consider ourselves of, participate in, worship with, etc., that would put us in not the majority, again, regardless of any other demographics we're talking about here, and assuming anything about just that trend towards it, of thinking that, well, just because they're different than me means that there are maybe something to be feared or bad. That just doesn't bear out in reality. And so anytime it comes along to the kind of logic of you people, or like you were saying with court cases, well, given the demographics of this person, I know exactly what their motivations are. The amount of times, there's a whole phrase about assuming and what it makes out of you and me. And I don't think I can quite repeat them on radio, but I think you get the idea.
Yeah, he did the same thing again when he said, well, he was raised by his grandparents and one of them was a MAGA guy or whatever. Like, well, are you going to assume that this person has the same ideology as the grandparent? That definitely doesn't happen all the time. So that's another assumption being made there. And you're right. Whenever you start dividing people into these different groups, if you really take it to its logical conclusion, you get down to the individual. Like you said, each person is their own little minority. That's why it's better to look at people individually as opposed to the leftist way of marginalizing people and balkanizing people by categorizing them in different groups, whether it's age or sex or color or race or whatever. No, each person's an individual and they should be looked at individually.
No, I'll totally agree with that there.
Americanism right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll tell you what, we got to take that next break now. So thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Have a good holiday.
You too there as well. So got to take that break to be able to hit the top of the hour here. So stay tuned. More Talk About. So after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A multi-vehicle crash from earlier still slowing down traffic on the I-10 westbound before Paisano. Multiple vehicles on the left shoulder and partially blocking the left lane with a backup to Airway. Found at Reynolds,
News
2
on the
vehicles
hour
up on the right
and a
shoulder.
half.
Traffic's
Traffic
moving
and
just a little
weather all
slower.
day.
I-10 westbound
News Radio
Hawkins to the
690
Patriot with a 6-minute delay. A
KTSM
stalled
AM
Freightliner is
El
blocking
Paso
the right
and
lane on
radio
North Desert
station.
Boulevard at Artcraft. Harry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Coraggio. Police investigating the murders of 4 University of Idaho students are also looking into a report that one victim, Kaylee Goncalves, may have had a stalker. Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier says they're trying to determine whether that's true.
We have followed up looking at specific time frames in specific areas of town. So far, we have not been able to corroborate it, but we're not done looking into that piece of information.
Police have received over 1,000 tips and conducted 150 interviews. They haven't identified a suspect or found the murder weapon, which is believed to be a knife. Georgia Supreme Court is allowing early voting in the state Senate runoff election, which is a defeat for Republicans who had appealed a lower court's ruling allowing early voting this Saturday. The election is between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Republicans argued early voting on that day shouldn't be allowed because it violates state law prohibiting voting on a Saturday if there's a holiday on the Thursday or Friday before. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is thanking the U.S. for another $400 million weapons package to aid in the war against Russia. Zelensky said in a tweet that the military package will save lives and enable Ukraine to continue its resistance against the Russian invasion. He said Ukraine will not be scared by cowardly, inhumane terrorist attacks by Russian war criminals. This Thanksgiving, it may be cheaper to let somebody else do all the cooking and cleaning.
We're kind of thinking about it twice. We might just go away. It might be less expensive to go out and eat.
Inflation has seen price increases in virtually all Thanksgiving foods, including the turkey. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of dining out has risen at a lower rate than the cost of dining in. Eating at home has risen more than 12% in the last year, while eating out is up less than 9%. New York City officials are ready to kick off the holiday season with the Macy's 96th annual Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is tomorrow. Mayor Eric Adams says the parade is just the beginning of holiday festivities. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio. Congress is set to hold a hearing related to the issues suffered by Ticketmaster when trying to sell Taylor Swift tickets for her upcoming tour. The Senate Antitrust Panel will look into the lack of competition in the ticket-selling industry. This all comes after reports of major service failures and delays on Ticketmaster's website, which left some fans unable to buy tickets. The hearing date and witnesses will be announced at a later time. Jay Leno was already headed back to his car garage and comedy tours just days after being severely burned. On Tuesday, Leno was seen driving himself to the same car garage where the accident happened and told reporters he'd be back on stage as early as this weekend for more comedy shows. Less than 2 weeks ago, the comedian was working on a vintage car when it burst into flames and injured him. Leno was still visibly burned on his face and hands, but is making a great recovery. A pair of Michael Jordan game-worn signature shoes will go up for auction. The iconic Bulls star's original Nike 1985 Air Jordan 1s will be one of several items held in Christie's latest collection called The Greats. The kicks have an estimated value between $200,000 to $300,000. Opening bidding begins on November 29th. Avatar: The Way of Water is projected to make between $150 and $170 million in its opening weekend at the domestic box office. The film's director, James Cameron, recently said it needs to be near the top 3 highest-grossing films of all time to be profitable. The original Avatar made over $2.9 billion in its initial theatrical run. This comes after Disney announced the movie will be landing in theaters in China, which may provide a major boost to the film's success. Avatar: The Way of Water debuts on December 16th. A Florida man is recovering in the hospital after he drank a cup of bleach following his conviction on charges of armed robbery. Jermaine Bell started to chug bleach from a white disposable cup after the jury announced they found him guilty. Officers rushed over and tried to get Bell to spit up the bleach into a trash can before he was rushed out of the courtroom on a stretcher and was taken to the hospital. He is now in stable condition. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org. Hey,
El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Hour 2 of the program and our call-in show for the week. Now, it's not Free for All Friday because it's not Friday, but we're going with a Wonderful Wordy Wednesday. I don't know. Needs a little work, but best we got for the moment here. In any case, it's an open line show, meaning we're taking your comments, calls, and all the things that we usually do on Friday here on Wednesday because it's the last live show for the week. Some replacement programming coming in for you all for the rest of the week here, but let's just say if you are calling in or commenting any of those things, that make sure you're not just fighting for fighting's sake. Like, trust me, I get it. I'm definitely down to argue. Should have been a lawyer, but ended up here in the meantime. In any case, just make sure you're actually listening to what other people are saying, because there's a difference between listening and waiting to speak, because you might even miss that. Even agree with you sometimes here, but as we also have others chiming in, such as Mondo Moncada, dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate over on the various different social media channels. Primarily over on the Facebook, we do have Flaco Jimenez, Eric McNabb, Groku Manda, James Holmes, Ion Graham, Sean Gardner, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Robert Haynes, Jerry Hart, and Ida Basic Gardner. But again, there's a lot of ways you can chime in there. Anyway, let's go back to those calls now. We do have, I believe, next up, we have Tony on the west side with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I want to address the gentleman, the he, she, them, they, whoever it was who called trying to speak to us about an alternative reality. I want to remind you of something, young man. I assume you're a young man, at least from the biological point of view. The only difference between you and Christians, or the main difference, I should say, is where you draw the morality line. Because you see, Christians draw the line at the biblical morality, whereas you draw the line according to what's popular or what seems right in your own mind. Now, you belong to a group, or you should belong, or you watch out that you don't belong to a group that wants to go dressed as a woman to teach little boys and girls about sexuality. That's where your movement and your kind of thinking is leading. So you have to decide now, am I going to draw my morality, my line of morality and sexual behavior and so forth, sexual expression, to the extent that I want to dress up as a woman and go talk to little boys and girls about their sexuality? Or do I want to draw the line like Christians do, where the Bible says to draw the line on morality? Either way, you are still either like Christians in the sense that you draw the line somewhere, otherwise you'd be a total pervert, and I'm sure you don't want to admit you're a total pervert, which means you draw the line somewhere about sex with children and so forth. So when it comes to bigotry, it's not a matter of Christians being bigots and you not. It's a matter of all of us, either all of us are bigots because we draw the line somewhere, or none of us are bigots because we have different levels of morality. So get that through your mind, okay? Now, as far as God and Christianity and things like that, God is a reality based on a scientific fact that it is illogical and impossible to have a creation without a creator. So you're even wrong in that aspect. Okay, so again, you can live in your alternative reality, but this moment you force us to call you a he, she, they, or it, whatever you want to be called, with whatever pronoun or gender that you choose, you are either being a fascist by forcing us to participate in your alternative reality, or you're being loose enough to let everybody have their own way and to be open-minded and let Christians have their view and live according to their beliefs, just like we're willing to let you live according to your beliefs, so long as you leave the innocent children alone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point on the call. Do appreciate it. Yeah, I think we lost him there. I will say this, that's not necessarily on, I mean, you've got entitled to your beliefs on it here, and I guess that's what it really comes down to for me. People are entitled to their beliefs. Now, if they want to bring them out there and saying, you should agree with my beliefs, they've certainly opened themselves up to, therefore, some debate, discussion, etc. here. Not wanting to turn this into the theological brawl hour by any means, because that's, again, civil wars have been started for less and no interested in being anywhere near there. But if you're going to put it out there and saying, I mean, when it comes to like the idea of, proselytization or, missionary, those kind of things here, you're putting it out there and it's certainly up for discussion. But I think that saying that anyone has to agree with you, I don't care which direction it's coming from, left, right, up, down, inward, outward, whatever, if it starts coming to you have to believe what I believe. I mean, there are certain shared realities that we obviously need to have about, people's right to exist, certain basic morals that I think can be found regardless of whatever the source is. And I think what it really comes down to me judging what those things are is, well, what the proximate harm and cause comes up and ends up being. Because if you are just saying, well, I think I have the right to go and hurt whoever I want because that's my beliefs, yeah, gonna find myself opposed to you and on that with varied degrees of force and severity with it, depending on how far you're willing to push it here. I mean, that morals aren't all relative. What it really, the way that I judge them when it comes down to it is, what does it actually mean for the individual? Now, of course, there is some room for people to decide what that means for them. Ultimately, we all have to decide that. That is a part of becoming age of majority, growing up, becoming an adult, however you want to put it here. And if you're saying that, well, if someone is opposed to me in any way, that therefore they are wrong, but it doesn't necessarily affect me, I guess that's where it comes down to for me. Like, you can call yourself whatever you want, live your life the way you want, and if you're frankly not harming anyone in it, I mean, sure, there's varying degrees. Like, I don't necessarily want to, I mean, there's taking the argument to its logical far reach. The idea of there being like, well, if you don't like insert subject matter here, such as let's call it graphic sexuality, pornography everywhere kind of thing. Oh, if you don't want to see it, just look away. Like, yeah, I don't think I want to live in that kind of a society. But still, until we get to that point, I mean, that may also be argued as a slippery slope, and I get that. But point is that if you're living your life according to your values and according to your morals, and it's not, I mean, your rights end where someone else's begins kind of concept here, I guess on the balance, except for very specific circumstances, not going to have too much of an issue with it unless you start making it an issue, I guess, basically is what I come down with it here. Anyway, let's get to at least another call here this segment before we get to that next segment here. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. In answer to Raul's constant rants about Trump and Eric and Frankie's constant rants about how bad the Republicans are, my answer to them is let's find out. We know what is happening in the United States under the Democrat and Biden administration. It's not working. Problems of a recession, inflation, increased gas prices, supply chain problems, crime increase, foreign policy blunders, Afghanistan debacle, and the Ukrainian war, responsible for thousands of Ukrainian and Russian deaths because the Biden administration wanted a regime change in Russia, lack of border patrol and resulting in an invasion of our country, encroachment on our constitutional rights and on the Bill of Rights, and other problems created by the Biden administration. I may not have a whole lot of faith in the current makeup of the Republican Party, and because our lack of complete control of the Congress, But with the Republicans having control of the House, with purse strings, with control of the purse strings, maybe things could change for the better, because I pray things can't get any worse. So let's find out. That's let's just find out whether or not, with the new Constitution, maybe we could get something else done.
I mean, we'll see what happens with this next session. I mean, we've already had some priorities mentioned, as we did have the presumptive next Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, in El Paso yesterday, talking about, again, at least one of those priorities. I mean, this one's a very specific one, so not more of the kind of broad subjects that you were mentioning there. But when it comes to, border security, I guess kind of addressing one of yours there with the intention of either demanding the resignation of or launching an impeachment proceedings, best way I can think to put it right now, into the, again, head of the current secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. So that's one priority. I mean, there's been a few others that have been mentioned, of course, the power of the purse, and also, of course, investigative powers, the power of subpoena, two very key ones. Sure, the Senate may be the higher chamber, but the powers are even delineated between the two of them. So I think that's, kind of the way you put it about, well, we'll see what comes up next is about the best we can do at this point. I have no doubt this will be a very interesting session of Congress, even if we'll probably be focusing a decent amount on this program on the Texas legislative session. We won't be by any means ignoring what happens nationally, particularly as it draws down and starts to affect us here in the borderland.
I appreciate that, but also on a personal note, I would like for Messiah Frankie to finally tell me what he meant by let's find to remember what Rex said.
Oh, sure.
He warned me of that. He keeps on talking, reminding me of that. I would like for him to explain what he means by that. And also, let's go, Brandon. But have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Stay well. Stay safe. God bless.
Yeah, you too as well. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we will go ahead and take that next break for this, first one of the hour anyway. Again, we're doing the whole open line thing. I keep wanting to say free for all Friday because it is the last show that we're doing live for the week, but it's Wednesday. So just, you can call in, and we'd be regularly taking calls at this point from the program anyway. But you can also, we have the open lines taking on all the subjects, topics. Yes, I call this airstrike on myself, but I seem to enjoy it, so we'll keep doing it for the time being. So again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Much as I want to start the weekend, we're not cutting it short. I'll be here the rest of the hour. Stay tuned.
All day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at red. A collision is blocking the left lane and causing a backup to Wrestler. Expect delays on the I-10 eastbound. Westbound Mesa at Sunland Park. A crash there is blocking the right two lanes. Only the one left lane getting by. Try North Mesa Hills as your alternate. North Desert Boulevard at Artcraft. That earlier incident is cleared. All lanes back open. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We might have just witnessed the last cryptocurrency bull run, but not for Bitcoin, which I think will run again soon. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On the podcast Rewives with Bethany Frankel, join Bethany along with unexpected thought leaders and her celebrity friends to rehash, revisit, and rewatch the most iconic episodes of The Housewives from all your favorite cities.
This season, I sit down with Elizabeth Moss, Kevin Nealon, Susie Orman, Griffin Johnson, and more. You'd think that there isn't much to learn from flipping tables and yanking wigs, but that's where you're wrong.
Listen to Rewives with Bethany Frankel on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
A construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like,
rewire the hull? They're firing, Paul.
Wait, what did I do? Or even,
install a waterfall. Whose dumb idea was this?
Be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk. From the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code TRIAL at checkout. That's harrys.com, code TRIAL. Enjoy.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. A lot of interesting comments coming in there, including Bernadette Bandicole. I'm assuming that's a turkey emoji, turkey yay. I mean, we're getting there. And yeah, don't worry, the turkey's cooking on my own here. Again, that's the benefit of this. I don't have to worry about the oven being left on while no one's at home. It's still going away on its own. Don't think it can cause a fire, but if it does, I guess we'll find that part out. And I guess hope all your preparations are going as well. That you got all your preparations already in hand, or you're expecting to not sleep much tonight. Not the best plan, I would call it there, but hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, however you're going to be choosing to be celebrating. Whether it be a traditional family celebration, a gathering, going to one of the football stadiums, at least know one person there here. So safe travels to everyone making their way around here. And it's going to be a busy and hectic one. So just keep a cool head. Know that you'll get there or you don't, but screaming about it usually doesn't help you end up getting there. The amount of times that I've been at an airport and I have seen someone just losing their marbles at a hapless, gate attendant here. Hey, what did you think was going to happen when you did that here? But also the amount of times that I have then, unfortunately, had to follow that person to be like, hey, I just have a real quick question, or hey, I have an issue. Can you help me? Please and thank you. Just like using please and thank you. They're called magic words in those circumstances specifically, because the amount of times I've been then like upgraded to first class if available because I wasn't the a-hole. It's happened more than a couple of times, I just got to say. So it pays to not be a jerk a lot of times. Mondo Moncanto saying his celebration with the Dallas Cowboys. I hope it works out for everyone involved here. Otherwise, it's a dour mood sometimes in town when that isn't the case here. But let's go back to those phone lines now. That number to call if you want to get on the line just filled up, actually, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Kevin on the east side with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. By the way, I'm one of those Christian conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not what I'm calling about, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
I had to laugh, really. The talk you had earlier in the program, the guest you had, I don't know whether he was a guest or whether you had an official person on there talking about the radio.
Oh, sure.
And
yeah.
how he picks up stations here and there and around the world, and in the future going to be able to do that. I mean, that was fascinating. And what I would like to see is to have pay radio without commercials. And I know that this can be done.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1950s, there was talk among us kids on the block.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, hey, pay TV is coming, and that means that we can put a quarter into some box that they're going to give us, and we'll be able to watch the Mickey Mouse Club or something without commercials, without interruptions. And, of course, that didn't work, and it degenerated into pay TV where you keep paying and paying and paying and paying, and then they have more commercials one after the other. However, I have experienced non-pay radio without commercials, and that was when I was stationed in Germany. The East Germans had programs on their station that they called Stimme der DDR, the voice of the German Democratic Republic. And being a communist country, they had no commercials.
Right.
And they had solid, old music. It was great. And speakers once in a while. So if the communists can do it in their communist society, I'm pretty sure we can do it in our free market democratic society somehow, some way. And the reason I'm zeroing in on radio is, first of all, because of the person you had talking at the beginning of the show about this, and also because I don't watch a whole bunch of TV, and I like the radio, but on too many programs, not yours, but on too many other programs on this station and others, there are commercials that just drive you nuts. You can memorize them because of the frequency that they're put on the radio. And I would like to see an end to that with, in our capitalist society, pay radio. Do you know anything about the possibility of having pay radio?
I mean, I think there's two ways I would consider it here. I mean, there's, of course, the satellite radio, which is not technically radio, but it's just sticking with the name there for it, where it's a subscription service. You pay for it. You can either receive it or you don't. I mean, yeah, that could work, but I think also, I mean, even with the streaming services, to go not with the radio example, but the ones where you pay a subscription and they were supposed to not have ads, they're creeping in there as well. So I don't know if you're ever going to totally escape. I mean, heck, even on NPR, which is supposed to be public supported, they still have not exactly commercials. They still take breaks. They still mention sponsors. So honestly, potato, I gotta say. But the other idea that comes to mind here is, and I don't have as much experience with it, but the way that it's actually handled whenever it comes to broadcasts in Britain, actually, the UK, because there it's you don't just buy your device and tune into whatever's out there. You have to then buy a license for it. I think yearly is what it is. And so it leads to this mildly Orwellian situation where if it looks like you're still tuning into TV but haven't renewed your license, you might have, it leads to the old joke, oh, you got a license for that kind of thing here. So I mean, actually, Sean Gardner, he was the one who spoke earlier in the program, actually, and that was not planned, but I will certainly take an expert calling in on what they can do, and I know he is an expert on these things, having spoken with him previously about it, and mentioning pirate radio doesn't run commercials. They don't exactly also adhere to, let's call it FCC. There's a couple of interesting movies and documentaries out there about pirate radio, or things like, what is it, Sealandia, built on the old sea forts in like the North Sea. So there's a lot of interesting circumstances here, but I think the closest you're going to get to reality, or at least what's been implemented so far, will probably be that whole, Sirius or XM concept that's out there.
Okay. All right. I got it now. All righty, Andrew. Thank you for your time, and enjoy your program very much, and have a great Thanksgiving.
No, you too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, I think we have time for one more call here before we get to that next one. Mondo Mancanda saying, everyone always says, I don't watch a lot of TV. I'll be honest, I don't either. I don't even know if we really receive it here. I mean, I watch things on the TV, but I'm not watching like broadcasts a lot. I'm not saying it was like sour grapes when I left doing TV, but I mean, I get all of my stuff here from either direct sources, reading of them, and I mean, sure, I'm definitely in favor of appointment viewing or listening in our case here, but I don't know. I find it's the interaction is the reason I still want to keep doing it in this way here. Let's get at least one more call here. We do have Raul in the Northeast in line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, I'll answer for Dr. Bumbling Ben what Lucia Johnny means by remember what Rex said. He's referring to Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson was Trump's first Secretary of State. And prior to that, he'd been former chairman and CEO of Exxon, one of the world's largest publicly traded international oil and gas companies, with a workforce of 72,000. So big time executive, ran a really big company compared to Trump's little real estate empire that he inherited from Daddy. And Rex Tillerson, made it from, he was an engineer. He made it from the bottom all the way to the top. I mean, he spent his entire career at Exxon and went from an engineer to being the chairman and CEO. And so, reportedly, Rex Tillerson called Donald Trump a effing moron, okay? And that supposedly happened after a meeting where Trump called the generals in that meeting a bunch of crybaby losers, something along those lines. So, and right after that, Rex Tillerson resigned, as a matter of fact. Now the right wing, in my view, what's up people? To kill Mexican immigrants and Jews and blacks and gay people now. Now, this year is likely to be the second highest year for mass shootings in the United States. Isn't that wonderful? And this is according to data compiled by the Gun Violence Archive, and they're a nonprofit that tracks gun violence incidents across the United States. Now, they and CNN define a mass shooting as one in which at least 4 people were shot, and that doesn't include the shooter, like this latest who killed himself. And now there have been 607 mass shootings through November 22nd of this year. And that's just short of the 638 mass shootings in the country at this point last year. The worst year on record since the group began tracking these things back in 2014. And there were a total of 690 mass shootings in 2021. I mean, that is just horrible. What a country where no one is safe anywhere, anytime. It's just unbelievable. And if guns aren't the problem and people are the problem, then why do you want the problem to have a gun? We got too many people who are nutty with guns running around. Like this nut that somebody took a picture of here in El Paso on the east side, walking around in combat gear and carrying an assault weapon. Did you see that, Andrew? You know what I'm talking about?
I did see that. It was a gentleman in a vest or load-bearing gear. It was a little bit hard to see exactly what, and was carrying, and we discussed this on the program previously, you might recall, he was carrying the rifle at what I would refer to as a low-ready position, which for even those groups that I'm aware of that have been active locally, and maybe not terrifically at the moment, but during previous sessions or lead up to previous sessions of the Texas legislature, before open carry and then constitutional carry was passed and made legal again, they were doing what they called, open carry marches, using what was legal to open carry at that point in time, doing it with long arms. And even then, they recommended either having it slung or at what is called like the parade carry, where it's, like rifle butt in hand, more or less, and then barrel pointed up and over the shoulder, but definitely to the sky. They did not recommend doing it in that low-ready configuration. So I have several issues with those individuals here, but if we're going to go along with that idea here, because, if we're going to say that, I don't like equivocating between types of crimes here, but honestly, the way they are talked about, and no crime is good crime. That is never going to be something that I'm going to say here, but I think that some of those stats may even, frankly, startle people in a different way. The idea that we talk about these things happening constantly, all the time, the narrative that's put forth there, but that the idea that they happen within the hundreds every year, and that the minimum is about 4 here may even surprise some people, because I think that a lot may be thinking that whenever we're talking about mass shootings, that they're all in the order of magnitude of, say, what happened here, or Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, or things like that. So the thresholds and being defined as they are, that's why it's very important to know the stats being talked about with the statistics, the actual way it's being measured. But also beyond that, okay, we're talking about the people then. Would you be in favor, then it almost sounds like you would be, of there being a litmus test beyond like a mental health evaluation, but of what someone's beliefs and views are for them to purchase a firearm? Is that almost sounding like what you're getting at there?
Yeah, if they believe in killing Jews, like Hitler, for sure. If they believe in killing immigrants, even if they're here illegally, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, criminal background check, mental tests, if they want to be armed to the teeth, it's just unbelievable. These people, that guy running around with a gun, that guy definitely has problems. What was that all about? What a gun nut. Those people really worry me when these people run around with guns like that. It's unbelievable. Now, I'm going to quote conservative Supreme Court Justice Warren Burger, what he said about guns and so forth. The gun lobby's interpretation of the Second Amendment is one of the greatest pieces of fraud. And I repeat, word fraud on the American people by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. The real purpose of the Second Amendment was to ensure that the state's armies, the militia, would be maintained for the defense of the state. The very language of the Second Amendment refutes any argument that it was intended to guarantee every citizen an unfettered right to any kind of weapon he or she desires. So I'll take his word over most gun nuts' word about the Constitution. This guy was a Supreme Court justice, you know. And again, look at what's happening in this country so that these people can have their guns, so that nut can run around on the east side armed like he's ready to go to combat. You know, they had to close some schools in the area considered closing. I don't know if they did or not, but they've had some alerts.
I mean, yes, I'm aware. Again, that whole situation that happened here. Again, don't agree with the way that guy did that. Just like personally, whenever I find myself wanting to be in an armed situation, open carry is not the choice that I make because I don't like the inviting of it. But to say that someone else doing it is inherently wrong, I guess, let me put it this way. Again, totally do not agree with the way that guy went about it here. I mean, if you want to go out, I mean, 511, among other companies, that's just the one that comes to mind, make, you know, load-bearing vests. I mean, they're even doing like the CrossFit games. There's ways to do that you can at least get close to it. So again, but let me just put it to you this way. What was the problem caused here? Was it that individual actively doing something to harm anyone, or was it rather the response around it, so to speak here? I mean, yes, causing concern wantonly of other people and not taking that into consideration. Again, do not agree with this, and this is not an action I would particularly take, but what was the real response cause? I mean, was the response being caused the real issue here or not? But also, let me put it this way. Just because someone sits on the Supreme Court means you automatically agree with them. I assume that you're going to be generous with that definition then and then extend it to, like, say, Amy Coney Barrett and trust all of her interpretations with the Constitution. Let me just put it here as we're needing to take that next, well overdue for that next break here, that I'm assuming not. That you probably have more than a few people on the Supreme Court that you have disagreed with over the year, including some sitting ones here. So taking it as someone sitting at the Supreme Court as the ultimate gospel truth of any of these political issues here, I'm just going to say that's probably not your standpoint here. But beyond that, there's also, even just within English, the idea of subordinate clauses. Look at which part of the text of the Second Amendment. Let me pull up my handy-dandy Constitution here, just to give you the full reading in case anyone's confused. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, subordinate clauses are the ones that support the main clause there, and therefore, a simple way you can figure that out is which one can stand alone on its own. Which of these is a full and complete sentence on its own? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Is that a sentence on its own? Simple answer is no. You're waiting like, what? What about that? What is that regards to? Now, is this one a complete sentence? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is a full and complete sentence, and the one that is most operative, essentially. Now, no right doesn't come with any, there is no right that has no restrictions on it. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't say, I'm going to kill you to someone and expect there not to be repercussions possible upon your person because of them, as well as that, yes, there are reasonable restrictions that can be had on firearms or weapon ownership in general. But when it comes to saying that, well, get rid of all of them because, this pesky law doesn't, or a constitutional amendment doesn't really matter that much, I don't like it. I have said this before, and I'll say it again as much as I can. I am very happy that the rights that I am able to exercise and the responsibilities that come with them are not subject to the whims of someone else's decisions upon my person, except for a very arduous legal process here. So let's go ahead and take that break now. Appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth. Got to squeeze in what we can for the end of the show here. So you got a couple more segments coming, so stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. 3 pit bulls that attacked several people in Northeast El Paso 2 weeks ago will be euthanized. That was the ruling yesterday by a municipal court judge in El Paso. The dogs caused serious bodily injuries following an attack on 3 neighbors at a mobile home park on November 9th. The dogs were taken into custody by El Paso Animal Services and placed in a quarantine. Tyler Marches and Clevie Nelson are the 2 victims who stepped in to help an elderly woman. Both suffered serious injuries. Former UTEP football coach Sean Kugler has been fired from his job as an assistant coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Kugler had been an offensive line coach with the NFL team, but according to the team, he was fired yesterday after an incident in Mexico City on Sunday. He's accused of groping a woman. The Arizona Cardinals played Sunday at Azteca Stadium in Mexico City. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at Red, a multi-vehicle accident blocking the left lane with a backup to Wrestler. Expect delays there. 2 accidents reported Gateway eastbound at Giles and Gateway eastbound at Airway. A crash is blocking 2 right lanes on Mesa Street westbound at Sunland Park. Try North Mesa Hills or Stanton as your options there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It's the night before Thanksgiving, and it is going to be another cold night, along with some winds, making for an extra chill in the air, and that is going to be the case as you wake up for Thanksgiving as well. We're still on track, though, for our next weather maker to impact both Thursday and Friday, not only keeping the winds going, but bringing us colder air and maybe a chance for some winter precipitation. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Thanksgiving goes back to our country's earliest roots, and we still celebrate today thanks to Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. But do you know the true story of the first Thanksgiving? Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
What's better than having your favorite radio stations, music, and podcasts on demand? Having it all for free. Download the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
Staples has Black Friday savings on the hottest tech gifts. The new Apple AirPods Pro 2nd generation are just $199 with the Staples Connect app. And save up to $330 on HP, Lenovo, and Asus laptops. In-store only. Offer ends 11/26. Limit 1. AirPod sales price $229 without app. Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Also got phone lines open right now, squeezing in what we can before the end of the show. We're squeezing a lot in so far for our open line calls for the week. Wonderful Wordy Wednesday. I don't know if that one works out, but it's best we got for the moment here because we're going to be out of the office for the next 2 days as we are, of course, out for the holiday. But we'll be back next week with more live shows. Don't y'all worry. So let's squeeze in what we got here. I got to say here, if effectively coming down to not my Constitution as the argument there, oh boy, I don't even know where to begin with that here. And again, just got to wish you good luck with the essentially I reject your reality and substitute my own. It was supposed to be a joke, my dude, is all I'm saying there. Any case, let's get to the phone lines. We do have Frankie and Macio with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. Right out of the box. I don't have any particular pointed offering to make to everybody out there in the Southwest border region, other than to say, I wish everybody out there in the Southwest border region a very, very happy Thanksgiving Day. Now, having said that, pay attention. It's the small things that count. You take care of the small things, and the big things take care of themselves. Like when I was in the Army, right? If you didn't wash your feet, I don't care how many clean socks you put on, you just lost the cause. So pay attention. Be appreciative of what you've got right now, no matter how bad the situation is, because it's never over the end. So be appreciative of what you've got and enjoy your Thanksgiving Day. That includes you too, Andrew. All right? So that's all I have to say for today.
Well, appreciate it, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving as well.
All right. You take care, Andrew. Be safe.
Stop you as well, certainly there. All right, appreciate that, certainly there. Let's get to another call on the line here. We do have Robert up in Chaparral on the line with us here right now. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving.
To you as well.
And to you and everybody else. Thank you. And beautiful country, and hopefully we can still keep it, continue giving thanks. I wanted to pass along, and it came up, I guess it was because Schumer, I guess it was last week, announced about making that decree about having the Dreamers come through and everything, and passing laws to let it happen. I don't know if a lot of people remember, and you can look it up and stuff, and maybe NER, Raul and Messi Frankie and Raul's little brother can check into it as well. But they were, if you remember, in about March, April or so of 2017, shortly after Trump was elected president and everything, he offered to give the Dreamers citizenship, to just let that happen then too, something similar to that. If you look it up, and he had a lot of opposition, not only from the Republicans, but he had tons of opposition from Democrats. And I think he had thought early on in his administration that he would be able to work alongside the Democrats and everything like that, and bring things together. And I think that's perhaps why he did that. And he found out later that that probably wasn't the thing. So it's kind of hypocritical that Schumer would now just, and I think of course they did it so that he wouldn't get that recognition for it. So so we see Schumer having done this. And so if you didn't look that up, you can check it out. And like I said, remember that Trump had offered that early on in his administration. Then come September, or later on anyways in that year, he rethought things and stuff, as perhaps because he saw the opposition that he was getting. So I wanted to mention something else and just see if your thoughts on it. I don't know if anybody remembers, but about a decade ago or so, a company came into El Paso, approached our city council in El Paso about building up, and it was good. They wanted to set it up between the area of Stan Roberts and into the northeast area right there where electric company has their solar at. But a company came in, wanted to build a huge solar tower, generate enough electricity and power and such from it. And this company came out of Australia. They saw El Paso as something like one of the top 5 places in the world that they'd love to set this up at and stuff. And I thought, wow, that'd be great. And it was going to be a good attraction for the public, and could do tours going up and down the towers and stuff like that. But apparently the county or El Paso turned them down But what was interesting or sad about the whole thing, I guess electric company took advantage of it later, and they used that whole area, most of that area, to be in the solar. So instead of, I'm wondering if that was something that could have been used for El Paso, generate finances and everything like that. But some entity wanted to do their own thing. You remember that incident, that episode?
I think I do. Maybe not a specific company coming in, but I remember discussion of about that time on the idea of a different kind of solar generation. So I think pretty much everyone's familiar with the idea of solar panels in this day and age. I mean, they're common enough at this point here. And of course, there's also the idea of the solar reflector towers, which is, I think the best one I can think of, the example was from, and not a great example, mind you, but to demonstrate the technology was the movie Sahara. Who was that? The actor, and it's blanking on at the moment, but there was that McConaughey. Thank you. I was like, Matthew McConaughey. And the idea is that it wasn't that there were a bunch of panels, but they weren't absorbing the energy themselves. They were using to reflect the light on one central point. And that was maybe one of it, but there was actually one other style that I think maybe what this company was proposing, in which it's actually, it's a tower, sure, but what it does is that it covers a large amount of area. So it's almost more like a solid tarp, but it's actually clear. So the idea is that whatever the energy that the sun is putting down on a swath of land, it then all the heat that's generated by that makes it raise. And so at the top of that tower would be a turbine, basically essentially a wind turbine in a tube, for lack of a better description of it. And so it would gather the energy being put down onto otherwise considered empty, desert in these cases, and using it to turn one turbine. I think that was the concept being thought about there. And so I wasn't actually sure why that never actually happened, though that may have been a slightly out there idea, frankly.
Yeah, it was when I saw it or heard about it and saw the situation in the paper about it, I thought, wow, that's going to be a huge project. But so I was just wondering if they got rid of it and somebody else took it over. But we'll see. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention, I think NER brought up Tillerson, and that Tillerson resigned because of this or that. But I think we also heard that Tillerson was talking behind Trump's back, and as Secretary of State, he would make decisions or saying little things here and there. And Trump, or let's say Tillerson, resigned. Tillerson resigned, and part of the story was because of that. So one here, one there. So all right.
Fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well and yours. Let's do one more. I think we have time for one more quick call. We got Andrew on the west side with us right now. Andrew, we got a couple of minutes here.
Yes, just to respond to Raul, I was going to talk about immigration, but Raul seems to pick and choose and then put out his blather. Basically, Warren Burger left the Supreme Court in 1985. Since then, you had the 2008 Heller decision and then the 2010 McDonald decision, which said that the Second Amendment was an individual right, not a collective right. And then you don't forget the definition of the militia, 10 U.S.C. 311. Anyway, Andrew, I turn the mic back over to you.
I appreciate the point in the call. You have a happy Thanksgiving there as well.
Take care.
All right. And with that, we got to take that next break. Now, coming out of this break, tell what we're working on for you for, next week at this point and close out the week. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on Highway 62, Montana Avenue eastbound, about 40 minutes east of El Paso, has closed the highway. All eastbound lanes are closed at mile marker 51. I-10 eastbound at Red, an accident blocking the left lane. Expect delays. On I-10 eastbound at Giles Road exit, a crash there is blocking the exit ramp. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Thanksgiving goes back to our country's earliest roots, and we still celebrate today thanks to Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. But do you know the true story of the first Thanksgiving? Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you run a business, you might feel that advertising is more confusing than ever, but it doesn't have to be. At iHeart, we're built to help your business. With 9 out of 10 Americans listening to us, just like you are now, we can give you access to your next customers and the tools, strategies, data, and creative to reach them. We're America's #1 audio company, and it all starts from a conversation. So let us help you adjust your plans to improve your business and costs. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Want to get 7 streaming services for the price of 1? Sign up for a smart bundle that'll stimulate your brain. Featuring Curiosity Stream with the best documentary films and TV shows. Nebula for thought-provoking content from your favorite creators. And One Day University with the best lectures from the country's top professors. And so much more. It's perfect for families with all kinds of interests and great content for kids. It also makes a perfect holiday gift. Now at 40% off, get all 7 services for only $3.50 a month. Sign up now at smartbundle.com.
Remember the days of watching Saturday morning cartoons in your pajamas and eating a big bowl of cereal? We're bringing it back to the Alamo Drafthouse East on Saturday, December 3rd at 9 a.m. Bring the family to watch the holiday classic Elf. With free interactive props and an all-you-can-eat cereal bar. Plus, you can bid on great holiday gifts in a silent auction to benefit Mike D's Big Adventure. Tickets are $20 per person in advance at Eventbrite.com. For more information, visit Mike D's Big Adventure on Facebook.
I know him. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, and I do mean that sincerely. Everyone that contributes to the show in some way, whether it's bringing your sincerely held beliefs, whether it's pointing out interesting things, whether explaining how certain parts of radio work. Again, that was unplanned today, but I appreciate the way that ends up working out, because I find myself, and the thing that I am most thankful for is the discussions that we can have. And let me just say this, as much as there is talk about these days about, no politics at the dinner table, the dreaded, oh no, what's going to happen over the Thanksgiving table, all I can say is that it's not necessarily a time to check your politics or check your core held beliefs, but maybe consider how you're going about them. The way I tend to find myself, and the best way it works out for me to go about it, is not going into a vein of hegemony, basically. Not saying as well, you got to believe with me, otherwise no one's going to have a good time today, but as trying to understand what other people have to say and think, and trying to be understood in the same way. It's the way I try to go about it when we do all the things that we do. So however you're celebrating, however you're going to be going about it, wherever you may be, I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and are able to spend it with those that are important to you or in ways that are important to you. You know, some of that are traveling out there for, say, the Cowboys game, and so hope that they make it there safely and that it ends up being a very good holiday for them. That's going to do it for us for this week. We are going to be back with you next week. We'll have some replacement programming in place for you over the next couple of days here. So don't worry, still be stuff on air, but won't be us here live. But in any case, back with you next week we got a lot more to get into, including the upcoming legislative session for the state of Texas, with those runoff elections for the city of El Paso, and a whole lot more. So we'll leave it there for today. So again, seriously, everyone that does tune in, call in, comment in any way. If you tell anyone about it, if you bring these discussions into your own life, so much the better. Appreciate y'all, and I think that's what we need to do to be able to talk about the things that affect us here and beyond. So in the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when you're out on the road. Don't eat too much turkey. Don't get the itis, and don't get behind the wheel if you're doing that. And of course, make sure to drink and drive responsibly if you're doing that. And have a great end of the week, Thanksgiving, and see you till next week. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on Highway 62, Montana Avenue eastbound, about 40 minutes east of El Paso, has closed the highway. All eastbound lanes are closed at mile marker 51. I-10 eastbound at Red, an accident blocking the left lane. Expect delays. On I-10 eastbound at Giles Road exit, a crash there is blocking the exit ramp. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
We parents hear our kids say lots of things that can get us pretty worked up. Things like, "Look, Mom,